But when you look a bit more closely, the fineness of the dovetails is not brilliant. It's not as well done as I'd like it to be.
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we're looking at the most uncomfortable items and valuations ever brought onto the Antiques Roadshow.
By the 1920s, 1930s, you could buy trains, planes, you name it. A biscuit tin was made in that form.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Number 10. Novatake Porcelain.
So it took you 30 years really to get into the idea of collecting the stuff?
Yeah, we never knew what it was at all.
For fine china, Novatake Porcelain is a collector's item, with some patterns going for thousands at auction. Seeing prices like that, we can imagine that this woman thought she'd be in for a big windfall, only to be sorely disappointed. It sounds to us like she only started collecting it in the first place after learning that it might be worth something, and was desperate for her hard work to pay off.
I think what is remarkable about Novatake is that 25 years ago, you couldn't give the stuff away.
No.
Nobody wanted it.
She was also advised that the more abstract ones are worth more, which weren't the ones that she'd been buying. It turned out that they were worth exactly the same amount as she'd originally paid.
I would expect today that you would have to pay around about £200 to £250.
Yes, we paid £210 for them, so...
That was a near one, wasn't
Yes.
it?
Number 9. Marine Cabinet.
So the steward would fill the copper reservoir with water. You'd keep in this department your toothbrushes and your flannels and your washing accoutrements.
This cabinet had come from a ship, though it wasn't clear what type, and such items were apparently rather sought after at the time. The cabinet was full of tricks, including a hidden sink, used before ship cabins were all fully plumbed in.
And where did you get it from?
Went to an auction, you understand?
Yeah.
And this it was sort of antiques at this auction.
Yes.
And that's why it was so expensive.
He says he paid 50 quid in the 50s, but it was then valued at £400 at the absolute top end. He wasn't happy with this, appalled that he'd been looking after it for half a century, and it turned out to be worth perhaps even less than what he'd paid for it.
That's all.
Yeah, that's all.
My goodness. After all those years, and keeping anything myself for 50 years.
He thought he had an insurance policy for his later years, but all he had was an old wash basin. Number 8. Oak chair.
Well, it did have some restoration work done on it about 10 years ago, because this was a family piece that was knocked around by children.
This old chair had been knocking around for years, pulled out for family functions and getting significantly damaged. So a lot of the chair was no longer genuine to the 17th century. Because it had another crest stuck to the back, the value deteriorated by 3/4, going from £4,000 to just £1.
The problem is his values. I mean, it really is a problem. Dramatically altered, I'm afraid, by the back.
She tried to put on a brave face, but the disappointment was clear, despite him going on about how authentic certain parts of the chair were.
And it might be more realistic to put only £1,000 on it.
Right.
Number 7. Oxo Collection.
I wonder if you'd still love me if I couldn't cook.
Not a hope.
What do you mean?
Didn't you know I married you for your gravy?
It's not often that Antiques Roadshow brings out a comedy skit, but at the beginning of this examination of one man's passion, he and the appraiser performed some of an old TV advert script for Oxo cubes. That already got things off to a strange start, but then we had to go through his unusual collection and work out how much various Oxo-themed knickknacks were worth.
I mean, I think that the whole collection is obviously going to be worth more than the sum of the individual parts. You've got a good spread here.
The advice? He should keep collecting Oxo memorabilia, and maybe one day he'd have a collection that really is worth something, because it wasn't at the moment. The collection was in honour of his late father, but the performance at the beginning was very awkward.
I'd encourage you to go out, continue, build up a world-class collection. In a way, it's a kind of memorial to,
Yes,
Dad.
it's almost priceless, really.
Number 6. Mahogany Table. This couple had had this table knocking around in their house for over 30 years, but were criticised right away for putting it in front of a bay window and letting the sunlight bleach it.
Yes, John didn't like the curtains being drawn. So it stood in the sun.
It's a working table.
The wife pins all the blame on her husband for not looking after it properly, but the big problem was that the people before them had cut into the solid top to add leather detailing, making the value plummet.
Because somebody has, I'm afraid, made a big mistake with this. This was never designed to have a leather top.
It was uncomfortable for everyone when they revealed that they'd initially thought that it had been overvalued, clearly hoping to hear that it was worth a fortune. It was worth about a third of the other valuation.
They put 35,000 on it.
Well, fairly recently, or yes, must have been.
Yes.
Yeah.
About a month ago, 2 months.
That is too much, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Number 5. Fake drawers.
Well, the story in the family is that it came into the family with my grandfather's grandmother, who was the housekeeper at a big house in Staffordshire.
Why on earth didn't she clean off the dead spiders when she brought this on TV? Who knows? Perhaps, as suggested, it was to try and show exactly how old it was. But this unassuming chest of drawers turned out to be the subject of one of the most dramatic Antiques Roadshow valuations of all time.
And I'm suspicious about this staining on the edge here. The stain is the same along the top as along the side of the dovetails. And I have a suspicion that someone has done that to give that the look of age and wear.
The family story suggested that the drawers dated to Queen Anne's reign, but it was significantly newer than that. Moreover, it was a fake, designed to trick people into thinking it was far older.
I'm going to have to use a word I don't think I've ever used on a roadshow. I think it's a fake.
Oh!
We'll probably never know how it really got into the family, or why the story was concocted though. Number 4. Grimshaw painting.
But when he became successful, like a lot of artists, he became popular, he had to produce more paintings, and painstaking techniques do not allow you to mass produce.
Some of the most beautiful paintings of the Victorian era were done by John Atkinson Grimshaw, who became immensely popular for his moody, atmospheric scenes of cold northern moors in the moonlight.
Because it seems to me that this is one of those Grimshaws which has at least 2 different hands in.
This painting, however, isn't particularly striking, and there are a few reasons why. First, though it certainly is real, Grimshaw became a victim of his own success and hired workers and cut corners to produce enough paintings for his fellow Victorians to buy. Second, it had unfortunately not been very well looked after, being improperly cleaned.
Apparently during the war years, there was a cleaning lady helping in the house, and she assumed that the moon was a spot of something that had fallen on the picture, and she tried to clean the moon off.
Because of the damage, it was worth 15 grand versus the 30 it would go for if it was a better one. The owner was not happy.
It's obviously a small, very relatively minor work. And, that's very interesting.
Number 3. Queen Victoria's mourning jewellery.
Well, there was a label on it saying it was almost certainly.
Almost certainly. We heard that one before. Yeah, tell me, almost certainly what? This couple found these pieces of jewellery in a tiny shop in Edinburgh, sold on the promise that they'd once belonged to Queen Victoria. But it turned out that they almost certainly hadn't belonged to Her Majesty, because the pieces just weren't lavish enough to have been worn by the sovereign.
I think there's a very strong possibility that they are mourning jewels for Prince Albert, but they may have been made to a royal order to be given to somebody of lesser stature.
They were still very nice jewels, but the disappointment came when it was revealed how much they'd paid for them. About 3 grand. It turned out that they'd paid about what they were worth, and were sore that they hadn't managed to land a bargain and then show off their treasures on the roadshow.
So come on, we're all itching to know what they cost in Edinburgh 6 years ago.
Come on. He didn't tell me.
Judging by what I'm hearing,
He's going to tell you now.
I'm hesitant to say.
Number 2. No valuation. This grisly item made everybody uncomfortable because of the dark history attached to it.
Your medallion is the 10th anniversary medal for the liberation of concentration camps. And they were given to people, Belgians, who had been in concentration camps.
It had been given to a survivor of a concentration camp in part of an effort to track down and name everybody who went through those camps and their fates. We're not sure if the family who brought it on knew that that's what it was, although it seems quite clear from just having a look at it.
This bit in the middle is a triangle with a B. And that is the badge that was sewn on the concentration camp uniform.
Wow.
Perhaps if they had, they would have kept it at home. They look very baffled by the situation, but it's good that something like this was on the roadshow so that people could learn more about the history.
Now, we always give you a valuation on the Antiques Roadshow, but we don't give valuations for Holocaust things because there is no price you can put on what someone went through to be awarded that medal.
Number 1, Biscuit Tin.
And of course, many of these then were thrown away when they were empty. They were simply a novelty item. As a result, they're quite rare. Collectors are very keen to buy them.
This woman was convinced that her biscuit tin shaped like a race car was worth a fortune, but it turned out that these types of tins were very common in the early 20th century and mass-produced, though people threw them away in such huge numbers that they're now something most wouldn't be familiar with. The owner believed it was going to be worth something and became more convinced when he started telling her how they're now unique collector's items and it's in good condition.
I think it's worth quite a bit more than that now. I think you did very well. How about £200? Do you think that sounds good?
Well, I have been told it was worth a bit more than that.
It was very awkward when she began to argue, assuming that he was lowballing her or didn't know what he was talking about.
What were you told?
Well, about 1,000.
No.
No.
I think that's a bit... I would say that was too much.
Let us know in the comments which Antiques Roadshow valuations made you wince.
We've always wanted to know the history of it and whether it was old or not, so, well, that settled it.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojoUK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.